Oh my goodness, this reminds me of Unwind. I'm going off topic. Yay, high five. Woohoo. Hello, welcome back to another video. This is kind of going to be an extension to my reading journey, my Ready Player One reading journey, which I'm going to put in the description below. The book has a movie, and I just wanted to review it and explain what I thought about it. One thing that I thought was pretty cool was that the author was writing about how much he really liked Steven Spielberg in his books, and then guess who the movie was directed by? That must have been the best moment ever for Ernest Cline, which is like so exciting. I guess this video, you don't need to have watched the movie for the most part. I'll leave a spoiler warning when I get into all that stuff. Okay. One thing I didn't like, but it's kind of understandable, was that the keys and the gates, well, the gates were kind of erased, which, you know, for time constraints, it's pretty decent. At least you got the 3 keys. You don't necessarily need the gates. But also the 3 keys were different. Like how you acquired those keys. I don't like how much it strayed from the book. The book was fine. It had some good realization moments, but I guess it's just meant to be in that form of entertainment in a book and not necessarily meant for a movie. Changed around how they got the keys to make it more, I guess, action-packed and exciting for a viewer. The movie was definitely meant to be in a theater setting, so watching it at my house wasn't the best thing. What I did like about the movie was H's character, which was interesting. It was kind of interesting because it was portrayed in a certain way, like the custom, how do you say it, avatar for H was just interesting. I thought they were just going to be people, you know, regular old people, but no, H's character got to be a little bit more fancy than that, and Artemis's character was definitely different from what I pictured in the book. I thought it would be a lot more like her, how, what's his name, described her, the main character, Wade, yeah. I thought she was going to look like her real-life counterpart, but no, it had like the spiky hair and all that, which is really cool. And just the idea of having this almost video game format in the movie is quite interesting. It's kind of, I know it's almost as if it was based off a video game this whole time, like an actual thing and not just the book, which is kind of cool to think about. Because the amount of like post-production work that had to have gone into it was probably insane, and what the actors had to do to kind of become their video game counterparts was going to be interesting. It seems like a pretty cool set to be on. There were a lot of things that they had to leave out in the movie, such as he became reclusive. I guess Wade's reclusiveness towards maybe the center of the book. So they got rid of that. They just went straight for it. I don't even think Wade lived in Columbus in the book. I could be totally wrong. I read it like 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. They just had to kind of smush everything together for time constraints, and by taking away Wade's reclusiveness, they definitely made him such a better character, because I didn't like him in the book, but in the movie he was kind of nicer, more open to people. It was just ultimately I think he was just ultimately a better person, which is great, and everybody else seemed to be really cool too. Daito and Sho. I finally learned how to pronounce their names, and I feel so bad for going an entire reading journey without knowing how to pronounce their names correctly. So Daito and Sho were supposed to be on an entirely different continent, but I guess for time constraints, they happened to be within Columbus, which is just so random. Oh my goodness, this reminds me of Unwind. I'm just going off topic. Okay, I'm going to go into a quick spoiler warning. So if you haven't watched the movie, so if you haven't read the book, and if you haven't read the book, this is kind of a huge spoiler, but if you have watched the movie, you won't know what I'm talking But if you've just watched the movie, you won't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm gonna get into the spoiler warning now. They took out the major death of one of the characters, and that just hurts. That really does, because it was also it's like so sad that death was off. You know, with like the IOI members throwing people off balconies. Why did I guess them taking out that also for time constraints, but like they're taking out way too much. Every time someone just had a gun, I was like, maybe this one person's gonna just something bad's gonna happen to him. No, not necessarily. So here we are. And then also, instead of Wade giving himself to IOI, Samantha did. So that was interesting. I mean, it was good. It was a good way of doing it. And then I like their relationship more in the movies. Yeah. Okay, spoiler warning's done. This movie was not the best book-to-movie adaptation ever. It was lacking a lot because for time constraints, they took out nearly everything. They didn't have to change the way you acquire keys that much, but they chose to anyway. It was almost faster to just keep in that whole first key scene, because meeting everybody else just felt rushed and really out of place. It's like when they started being called the High Five, like Daitosho and Artemis, Percival, and H, when they started being called the High Five, it felt really out of place and odd, because there was no explanation as to why. They just had a sign being like, yay, high five, woohoo. But it didn't make sense. They rushed a lot, and by implementing things in the book that they thought were useful, it actually felt really random, and people who haven't read the books probably wouldn't know what was going on, because you'd have to have that explanation. They didn't have that explanation. They just threw it in there. Like one of the biggest plot twists, they didn't have an explanation. They just showed up. No explanation whatsoever. That's what angers me a little, but that's okay, because it was still a good movie to watch, I guess. The hype, I feel like, well, from my perspective of everybody really liking it, it encouraged me to watch the movie, but I didn't have to, did I? I didn't have to. So, that's the unfortunate part, that it was just not that great. But that's just my opinion. Oh well. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you liked it, and maybe this encouraged you to watch Ready Player One or read the book, because both are decent. If you like this video, don't forget to check out my Ready Player One reading journey. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!